big dreams since like baby. I've been joining forces with the likes of an A-team. Jumping off of buildings used to be so stimulating. Now I'm reaching new heights. I'ma need the off-white.
The deadline. I'm ahead time, the rare kind. I'm a living legend, lethal weapon, mastermind. Big time.
And welcome to Commanders Training Camp 2022. We have you covered every day of camp from the team's facility here in Ashburn, bringing you this exclusive coverage of practice, interviews with your favorite players, and access like you will not find anywhere else. Now, coming up on today's show, Pro Bowl defensive tackle Jonathan Allen is looking to have another big season. He's been going up against new offensive lineman Andrew Norwell in practice. We'll talk about that matchup and how he might play alongside rookie D lineman Fidarian Mathis. Offensive lineman Charles Leno Jr. stops by the set to talk with us about his second training camp here in Ashburn and how he is helping some of the young guys adjust to life in the league. And speaking of young guys, this young guy has been impressing fans early on here at training camp. Rookie first-round pick Jahan Dotson, catching a lot of passes from our new QB1 Carson Wentz. We'll talk about what we can expect from his first season in the burgundy and gold. And we continue our journey around the NFC, getting you set for every team and our schedule. And today we are focused on the NFC South. The Panthers and Falcons are both coming out to FedEx Field this season. And we take you onto the practice field to watch drills through the eyes of former pros who walk you through what each position group is doing to get ready for the season. You don't want to miss this kind of insight. It's the closest you can get to camp without actually being here, and we're bringing it all to you right now on Command Center. Camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. And this is exclusive access to Washington's Commanders Training Camp at the park here in Ashburn, Virginia. It is hot and sticky today, but you can stay cool wherever you are because we are bringing the show to you, look-ins, and what is happening throughout this camp. Welcome on in. Julie Donaldson, joined by Logan Paulson, and this gentleman, he needs zero introduction. None other than London Fletcher. But London, what do you want us to call you here?
Well, I guess I'll go by the captain. No, the commander. I'm going to go by the commander right now.
Are we okay with this, Logan?
I mean, he's
whatever he wants.
Big Fledge.
He's the man.
Big Fledge. London's going to be joining us all season long in the radio broadcast booth. Really looking forward to that. But, of course, we had to get you out here to camp. Look, it is hot out here today. You got to kind of get eyes on what's going on the field. Favorite memory of camp from your days?
Well, favorite memory, I don't know. When you mentioned hot, I can remember just how hot it was when I started off with the Rams as a rookie. And we would have 3-hour practices twice a day, and then you'd be in meetings until 10 o'clock at night. Bed check was at 11, then you have to do it again at 7 in the morning. So I just remember being extremely hot. We were in the middle of nowhere, exhausted. You talk about the real dog days at camp. That was the dog days of camp.
I remember when I was a rookie, you told me you used to do 3-a-days at one point.
I lied.
Oh, there you go, man. Jeez. I tell everyone that story,
was a lie.
Man.
That was a lie.
That's right. You're just hyping it up. It's okay. All right.
It's all about intimidation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a linebacker, that's what it is all about. Well, let's get to some of the big storylines going on here in camp that we are keeping our eye on. This is presented by Bank of America, the official bank of the Washington Commanders. And we start on defense, where linebacker Cole Holcomb is preparing to start the season as the team's middle linebacker. He's been calling plays on the defense, and now he is manning the Mike position. We talked to Jamin Davis, who said the two of them are working hard. Going to be interesting to see how the tandem performs this season and to get London's take on it. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, Carson Wentz and the QBs are getting some reps in. We've seen Wentz, Taylor Heineke, and Sam Howell all taking snaps in practice. Wentz is the clear starter, but having some depth at the position, of course, you need, especially when developing a rookie like Howell. And one of the guys those quarterbacks have been throwing to is rookie first-round pick Jahan Dotson. The former Penn State standout has been impressing fans and his teammates with his play throughout OTAs, minicamp, and now training camp. After practice on Tuesday, Dotson had his first meeting with the media.
We obviously we're going against a great defense. A lot of guys on the opposite side of the ball who can make plays. So going out there every single period, we got to take seriously. We can't take it lightly because we know that those guys are going to come with everything. But getting back, going into the film room after every practice, realizing like it's just self-inflicted stuff. Things that we can easily fix the next practice, and we want to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes twice. So kind of just learning each and every day, not making the same mistakes.
I think we got the talent, and then I think, Del Rio does a good job of letting us, not think too much and play fast. So I think that combination, can allow us just to play to our abilities and, play to our strengths, not to think too much and just go.
Speaking of that, like Ron has said that, like, you guys didn't make a lot of changes, obviously, with the starting lineup, and he thinks continuity is the way to go to get you guys to improve off of last year. Do you kind of see that? Do you already kind of see how the continuity is helping you guys move forward?
Absolutely. I think there's, like you said, we have that, the relationship was already built last year between the guys, and now it's, build on that and just get more and more consistent.
Ron, obviously, first day with pads. For you, what do you kind of, when you're watching them with the pad, what's the difference? What are you kind of noticing out there today?
Well, probably the biggest thing, obviously, is the intensity gets ramped up, and just want to make sure that, as we ramp this intensity up, that we are doing things the right way. We don't want to lose our focus and our intent in terms of developing, learning, and growing just because we got the pads on. We got to play within ourselves. A lot of good things on tape that we're looking forward to watching as a coaching staff.
Let's get a little bit deeper into these storylines. And London, I'm going to start with you because it's your first day out here at practice, and now it is the second day in pads. How does it change what coaches want to do and install?
Well, what you do, you get an opportunity to see the offensive, defensive line, how physical they are, technique, hand placement, pad level. Those are things that you see once the pads are on. When you're in shorts and jerseys, it's hard to see that physicality. I love to see the 907. That right there is what the football is all about. The football is all about where can you run the football, can you get off blocks, can you take on blocks, proper hand placement, things like that. That's what the coaches want to see when you put the pads on.
Logan, does it make a difference or a bigger impact for certain position groups on the field, for certain things that you really kind of want to work through?
I mean, absolutely. Like when you're an offensive lineman, one of the things you got to do to offensive lineman, tight end, fullback, whatever you're doing, if you got to block somebody, you coach to grab the pads, right? And if you don't have the pads on, how do you work that technique, right? So all those guys are using that technique. Defensive linemen, right? They work the outside edges of the pads to work that rotation on the pass rush. It's a huge element in terms of how you play the game, and I think it's extremely important to get that done.
There are a lot of players that look really good when you're in shorts and jerseys, but then when the pads come on, you'll see some people rise to the occasion, then you'll see some other guys kind of shrink.
And also to that point, like it's a mindset. It's different, man.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
You've kind of weaponized your body when you put the shoulder pads on, and who's going to lean into that and who's going to shy away, and it's always good to see that.
Talking about grabbing the pads, Charles Leno Jr. is going to be joining us to see, because that's really something fun to watch, is how the D-line offensive line, they're a little bit limited without the pads on. You put them on, things ramp up, certainly. Also for the linebackers. So, London, we're going to send you guys down. We want you kind of focus in on that unit when you get to go down to practice. But you had the chance to kind of talk with Cole in the offseason heading into this. You look at that unit. What are you wanting to see in the growth of Cole taking over the Mike position?
Well, Cole, he started several games last year at the middle linebacker position. What you want to see is obviously him getting more comfortable commanding the huddle, being the guy who's calling out the defenses, being comfortable playing in the middle of the field and knowing his responsibility, but also being that alpha in that huddle. I know we have a lot of leaders along the defensive line. Jonathan Allen comes to mind. But Cole, you're the middle linebacker. You have to be the leader of that defense. You have to be the voice they hear. You got to get into some guys' butts sometimes. And I expect him to play a lot better because he's had a full offseason playing the middle linebacker position. He's going to be able to, he has Jamin Davis next to him. Those two guys are working unison together. But I expect a great leap in Cole's production this year.
And how hard is it as a young player with all these kind of older players around to kind of step into that leadership role and kind of establish yourself?
Well, sometimes it depends on the personality of a guy. It can take you a little bit of time. But Cole, this is his fourth year. He's been around these guys for 4 years now, most of them. He should be comfortable being that guy and saying, hey, when they're not doing things the way you want it to be done. One of the things you'll have to, what I'm looking for, especially next week, when guys get tired, their body's sore, and practice is dragging a little bit. Is he willing to get into some guys' butt to say, hey, we got to step it up on the defensive side of the ball. That's what he has to do as the middle linebacker.
That's something this guy did for the entire team when I was here. If we were having a rough day of practice, it was dragging a little bit, you could always count on Fletcher like, this is unacceptable. I remember you starting periods over, telling Coach, hey, that's not good enough, we're going to do it again. That's the kind of leadership we're talking about.
And he is still a young player kind of growing into this as well. It will be his first time with those full-time responsibilities, as he had to take over for Bostic halfway through the season. Was still kind of learning that position and learning how to make sure not just he's lined up, he's calling the right play, but Jamison Davis is in the right spot as well. So I think that's a unit we need to keep a close eye on and kind of see how that growth is, because it's a unit that they didn't go out in free agency and really go get somebody to add to that room.
Sure.
What they did add to in the room is on offense and Jahan Dotson. Logan, you've been out here every single day, even through the offseason, kind of watching how he's fitting in. Now you put the pads on and you're getting to see that extra level of him. It's early.
Yep.
Expectations.
I mean, right now he's the number one receiver in my book. He's been the most productive offensive weapon day in and day out, making big plays every single day, catches the football when it's thrown to him. He had a little bit of the dropsies on Saturday, but everyone has those days. He's bounced back in a nice way. The professionalism with the approaches, the interviews, the meetings, you can tell, and he's just dialed in, man. He's just got that pro mentality as a young player, in addition to all the athletic kind of acumen that he has. I think that's a really good sign for a young player.
You know, as you mentioned, just the professionalism, just watching the way he handles himself in interviews. That's what I've been extremely impressed with. I've seen the catches. I would say he's wise beyond his years, and he's probably exceeded expectations so far in what we've seen. And you mentioned him being the number one receiver so far. I mean, catches everything. I remember him as a receiver at Penn State. I'm an Ohio State fan, and he made the Ohio State defensive backs look like a pedestrian with some of the catches that he had. He's going to surprise a lot of people, and it would not surprise me if he's in the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, I like that. Look, he comes in ready. One of the reasons that they wanted to get him is the load fell to him at Penn State. Like, he was basically the only option. He was the one that really carried that offense there. He's gone up against a lot of tough defenders in college, and now he's getting that here at practice. And we'll see soon how that plays out. But he comes from a great family as well. I've met them plenty of times coming through, so he does have that maturity beyond his years, and we'll see how that translates soon enough. Time now to go around the league, and we're going to go to the NFC, and we are heading south. We start with the story of the offseason. Quarterback Tom Brady announces his retirement and then quickly reverses course, rejoins the Bucs. His tight end Rob Gronkowski did retire and has remained there, at least for now. But Brady has plenty of weapons to play with down in Tampa Bay. He also has a new head coach in Todd Bowles as he steps in for the retired Bruce Arians. The only other team in the division returning their starting quarterback are the New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston, he returns. This will be his second season as the starter. He'll also have a new head coach in Dennis Allen as he takes over for Sean Payton as he stepped down after last season. And down in Carolina, the Panthers have a new quarterback after trading for Baker Mayfield. Sam Darnold had been the projected starter until the trade. Now it looks like Mayfield will lead Matt Rule's offense. The Panthers come to FedEx Field next Saturday for the Commanders' first preseason game. The other team in the NFC South coming to Washington this season are the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons traded veteran quarterback Matt Ryan to the Colts, so they will have a new QB under center for the first time in 13 years. Marcus Mariota will be the signal caller in Atlanta this season. Okay, let's talk about the NFC South. Is Tampa Bay and Tom Brady? I feel like as Tom Brady's still out there, he is still the player. I don't care how old he is still, to me, the player in the team that you have to beat.
I think absolutely, but I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. I think when you look at New Orleans and what they've done this offseason, they've retained Jameis Winston, they've added Chris Olave, they've added depth on the offensive line, and that defense, I think that's the most important thing. That defense always gives Tom Brady fits. They always are stressing him out, showing him looks, showing him things he's never seen before. And so I think with the offensive improvement from them, I think that's something to keep an eye on. Mike Thomas is coming back, all those things. So yeah, I think everyone will say Tom Brady, Tom Brady, Tom Brady. But I say look at New Orleans, man. They had an excellent offseason.
Yeah, New Orleans, they'll definitely be in the mix, but you forgot, Sean Payton is no longer there. He was the head coach there for 16 seasons. That's going to be a big difference not having him on the sideline after him being with the organization for so long. I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers still are the cream of the crop in the NFC South. There is some concern when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the injury to Ryan Jensen, the center for the Buccaneers. He had the Bucs, now they have to replace all three interior linemen. Ali Marpet, he retired. Alex Kappa, he's now playing with the Cincinnati Bengals. And when you look at the Tom Brady, he doesn't like pressure in the middle of his face. So the interior of that offensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to have to step up in order to give Brady the pocket so he can get the ball to his playmakers. Think about this. They just added Julio Jones, a future Hall of Fame wide receiver, to that already potent receiving core.
Tom Brady will take full advantage, I am sure. Certain of that. Look, we're going to get the Carolina Panthers. I can't believe this is just a few weeks away. We're going to see the Carolina Panthers here at FedEx Field. Of course, Ron Rivera and the majority of the coaching staff's former team. But they basically have two starters that we would be going up against, in Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. What are we expecting when we see them in the preseason week 1?
I mean, honestly, I have no idea. That whole organization's kind of a mess right now. But yeah, so Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield will be starting, and I think that's an interesting storyline for sure. And obviously, it'll be great for this team to see 2 starting caliber players or borderline starting caliber players. I think the biggest story for them is McCaffrey going to play this year, because he is the heart and soul of that team. We're not going to see him in the preseason, but to me, that's the storyline for that organization moving forward.
I live in Charlotte, and I ran into Chris McCaffrey just about 2 weeks ago. He looks in phenomenal shape. He's ready to go. I know we're concerned about the Carolina Panthers quarterback. I want to see our quarterback and what he looks like in that ball game, because we got Carson Wentz as our starting quarterback. This will be our first opportunity to see him in live action, see what the offensive line looks like in that game. How long will Ron decide to play the starters? Because with only 3 preseason games, you're kind of up against it in terms of getting those guys ready for the opening game of the season against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So how much will our starters play? How will Carson Wentz play? Can they put a couple of drives together, get some points? That's what I'm most interested in looking at.
And the other point is that Carolina secondary, the first round pick from 2 years ago, CJ Horn is coming back. They invested a first round draft pick in Gillum from the Patriots, and I think that secondary is a volunteer group, very skilled, and I think that'll be a really nice test for Carson Wentz.
Absolutely.
So that's preseason. Yeah, it doesn't really count against the books. It gets you first chance.
It doesn't count, but it matters.
It matters. What really matters, though, is when we get to the Atlanta Falcons on November 27th. No Matty Ice this time around. Where does Atlanta stand?
It's there. I thought Arthur Smith did a great job coming in there as a first-year head coach. They won 7 ball games. Now Matt Ryan has moved on. I think there'll be more of a run-oriented offense, bringing in Marcus Mariota. You think about Arthur Smith. He came from Tennessee. They love to run the football. And then you have the big tight end, Kyle Pitts. Yes. They drafted Drake London. 2 big, 6'5" Drake London. Those are red zone targets. So they're going to try to kind of, shorten the ball game, run the football, and rely on that running game to kind of lead them this year.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think that organization's in flux. They're in a total rebuild, and they've got something like $70 million in dead cap space. So that roster is you can't build it out the way you want to build it out. So they got to kind of bide their time until Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, those kind of guys are off the books. But again, it's tough, man, because like you said, Arthur Smith does an excellent job. When you add Marcus Mariota to that mix, they're going to have an RPO. They can challenge you. They can do some different stuff offensively with that running quarterback. So it's not a wash, but they are definitely in rebuild mode, and they're not at their full strength.
Talking about having to stop the run, we're going to send you down a little bit to look at the linebackers, see how they do against our running backs as well. But first, you need to make sure that you are at our Saturday practice, August 6th. It is at FedEx Field. Head coach Ron Rivera is going to be chatting with everybody in attendance. We'll be introducing coaches. London and Logan will be there telling you exactly what the drills are, what they mean, what the coaching staff is looking for with them as well. Head over to commanders.com for more information and get your free tickets. Now check this out. This is Melba Jacobson. She is a huge Washington fan, and on Tuesday she celebrated turning 98 years old by continuing a long-running tradition of coming out to training camp to celebrate her birthday with what she calls her boys. She had great seats to watch the action, had some cake, and capped it off with the team singing happy birthday to her. I had the chance to catch up with Melba and co-owner and co-CEO Tanya Snyder.
Tell us a little bit about your fandom.
Well, I just love all the whole team. I have special ones. I've been through all of them, and I have, I don't know how many jerseys with names on them. I'm just excited, and I'm excited to meet the team, and I'm excited that Tanya's here. And I'm just lucky.
How special is it, Tanya, for you to come out here and celebrate Melba's birthday each and every year? Just one of our super fans.
Well, we're 90 years this year as a team, and history, tradition, legacy, she represents all of that. So it's really special, and to hear the stories, and for her to talk about the future too with the team. So, and looking at all the new, rookie players, and she's looking forward to seeing everybody today. It's very exciting.
It was so great seeing all the guys get around, saying happy birthday to her. To know Melba is to love Melba. So great having her family out here as well. I mean, this is what it's all. This is what the game is about. It is about the fans and the lifelong fans. So great we could share that. Okay, guys, we want to send you down to the field. Take a look at those LBs, see how they're shaping up. No coaching. We'll get you the coaching. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Okay, now after the guys give us their on-the-field level report, we're going to check in with offensive lineman Charles Leno Jr. We'll find out how his second training camp in Washington is going and find out what he is looking for in Antonio Gibson and why he's looking for Antonio Gibson. This is Command Center Camp coverage. We're going to be away for just 60 seconds, but we are showing you practice the entire time.
Introducing Nitro Pepsi. Smooth, creamy, delicious.
Another rock and roll weekend.
Burgers, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back to Command Center Camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. Well, fans have been active on social media. Here's a look at some of the posts with the hashtag HTTC. Good to see fans coming on out here looking for Jahan Dotson. Of course, he's catching attention as he should, the way he was drafted high in the draft. A lot of fans optimistic this season as well. Of course, if you want to see the team up close and personal, make sure you do head on out here to Ashburn. We are opening up and we want you here for this. Time now for your Field Pass presented by FedEx, where now meets next. Logan and London are down on the practice fields. Okay, guys, what are you looking for?
Go. Thanks so much, Julie. Here with London. We're going watching the linebackers. And when I watch these linebackers, London, the thing that sticks out to me is how different the body type is than when I was here in 2010 with you. And, just the size and kind of the skill set, how that's changed.
Yeah, the skill set and the size has changed. You got more athletic linebackers, a little bit rangier guys. You think about Jamin Davis, here he is, 6'3". And the reason is because the game of the tight ends, guys like you are former basketball players, so you have to have more athletic guys and really have that ability to play in the passing game.
Yeah, and then also you're also matching up against wide receivers. You're matching up against these scat backs now, so you need guys who can run, and almost like fitting the run is a secondary concern now, right?
It's crazy because as I'm evaluating linebackers coming out of college, I'm like, man, these guys aren't physical enough. They don't take on blockers the way I would love for them to take on blockers. But in today's game, and it's kind of moved into the NFL, it's more about, can you play in space? Can you cover receivers? Can you be athletic and run sideline to sideline? So that big 250-pound thumper, a run-stopping linebacker, is almost extinct.
Yeah, absolutely. And here, so we mentioned coverage. Here they are. They're doing like a little bit of a walkthrough here, right? They've got scout team guys. You see the beanies, the yellow, the green beanies, and then they got to match these concepts, and that's become such a critical part of practice. Before you'd be hitting the sled, you'd be getting all physical, and now they got to match concepts. What does this do for you pre-practice and getting you ready to go?
Well, I guess right now, the coach, he'll give them a coverage and say, hey, you're playing whether it's cover 3, cover 4, quarters coverage, and you're matching the routes and you're passing off guys, and as guys are playing your zone, coming into your zone, you're picking them up. So those are things that get you ready to be able to play in the passing game.
And how important is the communication with this group right now? Like, this is kind of laying the foundation from a communication standpoint.
Well, it's extremely important at the linebacker level. You think about it at the start of the snap or in the huddle, that Mike linebacker, Cole Holcomb, he's the first voice that they hear. So his communications start right away from the time they break the huddle, and it continues even on the course of before the snap. You're talking to your guys, and that's where you want to have that communication, barking out calls to your defensive line, barking out things to your other linebackers and the safeties and secondary. So you cannot over communicate on the defensive side of the ball.
And I remember you communicating a lot, like what run looks you saw. Oh, this guy's light in the hand, he's going to pull, all this kind of stuff. Can you communicate based on formation, based on alignment to get your coverages in the right spot? Like, let's say you're in a cover 2 and they're in a 3-by-1. Can you match a concept based on the pre-snap read there?
Oh, absolutely. And right now, I'm sure they're not doing a ton of game planning against their own offense. But as you get into the season, you recognize formations, you recognize down and distance and tendencies. You have a great idea and understanding of what a team is going to do out of formation. So you can tell your defensive line, hey, this is a pass situation. So maybe you get, your shade out of your one technique.
And the guy over the center.
Put Deron Payne in a position where he can maybe get into the 3 technique, get over the guard and be able to rush the passer because, hey, we're expecting pass based off this formation. So things like that.
And I think it's really interesting here that the older guys are the starters. You got Mayo, you got Kalik, you got Jamin Davis, given the scout team look for the younger linebackers, the guys that like kind of those developmental guys. Why is it important to bring these guys along, guys that may or may not be on the team at this point?
Well, this is their opportunity. I look at my situation when I came into camp as a rookie. I was 4th on the depth chart. So don't get caught up in where you're at on the depth chart.
Absolutely.
These guys, they'll have an opportunity to go out and play in the preseason game. Every day is an audition. Every practice is an audition. So you want them to know what they're doing, and this is the way that the coaches is really training those guys how to go out and play their best so they can give themselves their best opportunity to make the football team.
And I'm really glad you said that it's an audition because it's not an audition necessarily for the Washington Commanders. It's also an audition for all other 32 teams when they get in the preseason, right? So you want those guys to look good. It reflects well on this linebacking group and this coaching staff as well, right?
It really does, and that's what you have to realize. You're not just auditioning to make this team. All 32 teams, especially once you start playing those preseason games, they're looking at their film. They're looking at that game footage, and they're evaluating you. You may not make the roster here, the active roster here, but you may, make somebody else's roster where they don't have that type of talent. So just make sure you're playing your best. Special teams is going to be extremely important for these guys as linebackers, and if you want to play in the National Football League.
Fletch, oh my goodness, I think we're in for a treat today. I think they're doing one-on-one pass rush here with the linebackers and the running backs.
I love it.
You remember this drill, right, Fletch? I mean, holy cow. Like when you're rushing her back, what are you thinking about?
Well, you want to go in there and have a plan, whether you don't want to necessarily bull rush a guy, but hey, sometimes you will bull rush him. Jamie Davis, I'm really interested to see what he does.
Dude, nice job by McKissick there. Getting good base, right? Not over lunging. And I think in this drill, like they kind of set it up so you can't bull. They don't want too big of a contact. That's different from when you played and every ref was a bull rush dang near.
Right.
There you go, Cole Holcomb on.
That was on Brian Robinson. Yep. I like Cole using his hands at the finishing that and continuing to fight. Thing I used to try to do was I would do a move a lot of times. It's you want to have whether it's an inside move or dip or rip, something to get the guy to set. That wasn't too good of a rep right there.
Yeah, nice job by the back, though. I'm talking about the back. Great job with the back. Get in there with his hands. Get out of here.
That was a terrible rush by the linebacker.
There you go. Who was that on the ground right there? That was a nice little rush there. Inside move, 46. He's one of those young guys, converted safety type, body type. And again, you like the little outside move, come inside, that little Euro step. Love that. And I think like that's something you said. Like even if you're gonna bull, you want to throw a move.
Get
the guy on set.
Oh yeah. I used to do like a basketball in and out crossover type move. Here, guy just rushing on the inside. I would love if you're gonna rush in the inside. You figure the quarterback is inside that running back, so take that inside move.
Yeah.
Stick him outside and then rip inside. Foot fake him, things like that. Let's see what happens off the edge.
Oh, nice Kalik right there. Nice little shoulder down. Came with good energy there. Again, they can't bull here, which is an the advantage running back here, right?
It's advantage running back, but also the running back can't cut. So
that's true.
It's almost
That's true.
not fair
That's
for a linebacker to be able to bull rush because you're not going to have your running backs cut these guys. So it's a way to kind of even the playing field by, hey, don't bull rush and we won't.
That's
cut
a
you.
fantastic point. What is it like rushing, knowing a guy can cut you? Like, because I feel like I would just be kind of really conservative and nervous about it. What is that mindset like?
You know, it's just one of those things where you just have to go in there and the great cutters, the guys who are the best at it, they're very patient and they wait to the very last minute before they go and cut you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's one of those things.
Do you have a guy that used to get you?
No, man. I'm too short to get cut. No, but just you know, those a lot of times it's that smaller scat back where just think of this. You may have to block an outside linebacker, a big 260-pound outside linebacker, and you're a 5'8" running back,
right?
Like a Darren Sproles. Hey, you got to block this outside linebacker like a Von Miller. Well, you're going to have to cut this guy because you're going to lose a one-on-one heads-up matchup. You can't overpower him. So that's when you fake at him, when you cut him, you mix up your techniques, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the number 46 is Milo, the guy that they signed late last year. And again, he's shown some flashes during training camp. And I think like that's again, seeing those young guys come along, like you said, they can make a name for themselves here. And how important is this drill? Do you think?
It's extremely important, and especially you think about it from the running back standpoint. A guy like Antonio Gibson, and now they're moving into the one-on-one pass coverage part of it. This drill right here, I love this part because you think about the passing game. You're going to have to cover running backs out of the backfield, and that was a nice job by Cole Holcomb, taking away the inside. Gibson tries to get inside.
Oh, look at that. McKissick, man, maybe the best pass receiving back in the NFL.
That's a win, though, by Jamin Davis. What? That was a win, though. He caught the ball, but it's about a 4-yard gain.
So that's a win for him.
He did a great job of taking away the inside, being patient, and when McKissick went out and made his move on the outside, he made the tackle for a 4-yard gain. That's a win for the linebacker.
Man, we could watch this all day long, but we got to get back to the studio and talk about the rest of the show. Back to
loving
you,
it, loving it, loving it. We know you are as well. But let's now turn our attention to one of the staples of our offensive line, Charles Leno Jr. This is Leno's second season here in Washington, and he has seen his fair share of training camps and knows that his role on the line, well, it's the same. But his role as a veteran, it's different than when he was a youngster in the league. This is our Pepsi player profile. Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Washington Commanders. Charles Leno joining us, entering your 9th season. This is like old hat to you. You're second with Washington, but today was the first day with pads.
Yeah.
Do you as a lineman kind of get excited for that day where you know you can kind of ramp up and kind of see what you're going up against?
Yeah, it's a better feeling because when the guys don't have anything to grab, lock on to, they just look like they're just the greatest athletes in the world blowing by us. But it's not like that. We got the pads on. It's a different story.
You're second here with Washington as well. The offensive line went through so many different changes last year, and still this year, a lot of new guys coming into there and joining your room. How so far can you assess how you guys are doing, or do we need more days in the pads to kind of really see how this unit's coming together?
I mean, it's our first day of the pads. I think for offensive linemen, we need just more days in the pads. Just getting the feel of them, getting our run fits together, pass protection wise, and also just feeling like different rushes. Like for me, playing tackle, you get bull rush. You know about that. Getting a bull rush is a different feeling when you don't have.
You get the pads on, yeah.
You got the pads on. You can feel the bull, and it's treated like a live rush. So like when we go one-on-ones, I get that real feeling, and it helps a lot.
Yeah, and so obviously Norwell's new, right? And obviously every time you bring in a new guard, there's an adjustment period. But is it helpful that he's been around for a while, kind of an old head that knows exactly what's going on?
Absolutely. I mean, it helps so much. Like we don't even we're to a point now, or so early in camp, we don't even have to communicate much.
That's great.
Like we just kind of know. We know the system. We know what we both can do, and we can just roll.
And he's been in the system before, so is he kind of imparting any tricks of the trade to you, kind of having worked with Matt Scott before, like for long periods of time?
Yeah, he's been in the system before. He know. I mean, like it's like picking up where he left off. I feel like
right.
It's when you get into different systems, all you concept wise, once you understand the main concept, you can roll right to it.
You get to your 9th year, the body is what it's all about.
Heck yeah.
How is yours holding up? because you've been a model of consistency. What do you attribute that to?
I attribute that to just my work ethic. I'm in the weight room every day. You know what I mean? I'm every day at 7 o'clock with Kavan, with Chad, with those guys in the strength staff, just working on my body. And it's not necessarily lifting strong, getting everything like, you know, trying to be the biggest, strongest. It's about taking care of your body, taking care of the little things, all the little muscles. You know, one of my PTs back in the day told me, would you want 1 man to carry a piano or would you want 10 men to carry a piano? Right? I was like, yeah, you want 10 men, right? So I just take care of the little things, you know, the mobs, the joints, all those type of things. And, you know, it's been doing well for me so far.
110 consecutive starts, speaking to that, which is kind of unheard of, especially for a lineman, and a testament to you taking care of your body. There's a lot of kind of young guys on this team as well. I think it's important, as Logan was pointing out, to have some of that veteran presence to coach those guys up. How much do you kind of coach them, lead them, guide them here?
I mean, that's just who I am. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first got into the league, I had some vets, Jermon Bushrod and Matt Slauson. You know, those guys, they taught me how to be a pro, and they just kept helping me out when I was out there on the field. And, you know, one thing they saw was I worked hard. You know, first and foremost, you want to see guys work hard, and then it entices me to go out there and help them more. You know, so I just love always going out there helping my guys out. Like, I just want to see them succeed. You know, it puts a smile on my face when they're out there succeeding. When they do something that's like, man, they did it right, and I helped them out to do it. You know, so.
And so in practice, you mentioned kind of mentoring the young guys and how their success is your success. Is there any of that same thing with the defensive guys? Like when you're challenged by Montez or challenged by James Smith-Williams and say, oh, like this is something I got to clean up in my pass set, or something that they've stressed you to improve on. Is that a big part of this training camp process too?
Yeah, I haven't done it so far yet. Yeah. But I know it definitely happens. That's more so in the season. Right now we're going against each other. I'm not giving any of my tricks right now. You know? But when the season comes around, I'm always trying to help those guys. Like, hey, I know that tackle. I played with that tackle. Or, you know, I train with that tackle. This is something that he likes to do. And I try to give him, you know, some tidbits every now and then.
Yeah. Because you see it way different than they do. Because you know the techniques, you know the protections, you know all that stuff. So I'm sure that's very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also talking to Sam, the defensive line coach. Yeah. I actually talked to him, and he actually asked him, like, what do you see in my game? Because I'm always trying to improve my game. Yes. And he gave me some things like, oh, you know, I'm not going to say it all right now, but, you know, he just gave me some things to work on. And, you know, I was telling him, you know, some things like the defensive line can work on. So.
3 different voices in the huddle. Talk us through the huddle with new voices and what you sense from this quarterback battle.
Different voices? I mean, what
guys giving out just calling plays, new quarterbacks.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, when I was in Chicago, I had a lot of quarterbacks too. You know,
those teams that don't win do that.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, when it comes to different quarterbacks and different things like that, all you want them to do is just command the huddle. You know, spit the play out, get it out quickly, get it out with some, you know, confidence. And that helps you. You know what I mean? Like what you got. I remember back in the day, you have guys that's like stumbling through the play calls and stuff like that.
We've been there. Yeah, that's my point.
Come on, get the play out, man. I'm trying to go. We're trying to play football here. So, but you got guys, like, especially like Carson. Like he's a vet. He understands it. He comes in the huddle. He's like, boom, this is what we're doing, and he understands. He looks around. He's like, get lined up. You over there. You know, he understands the whole concept of what's going on already. So it's good to have somebody like that.
If we talk about the run game, AG had his first 1,000-yard season last year. That's a lot of testament to you guys up front. First off, did you get anything for that?
Actually, I'm still looking for something.
Okay. AG, you're on watch.
Where you at, AG?
Beyond that, how do you see this? I mean, can you tell how this running back room is going to come to form in the addition of Brian Robertson Jr., how he's going to kind of be that grinder and that power back as well, and just kind of the growth and development of AG with McKissick out there?
Yeah, I mean, our running back room is talented from top to bottom. I mean, I really appreciate those guys, how they work. Coach Jordan got those guys running hard, got them working in protections, and it's just talent all over that backfield. And you know, that new addition with B-Rob, he's going to be a great addition. And we still got, you know, JD's so special in what he does. Just a jack of all trades. He can do it all. And then AG's just he can take a screen, a run, a pass, 60 yards. You know, he's so explosive. So I just really appreciate those guys and how hard they work.
And I think a lot of people think, oh, like the offensive line elevates the running back. But sometimes a good back who's on good tracks and setting up blocks helps you guys out. Like, how important is it to kind of get on the same page with your running back and say, this is how I'm seeing this tight zone or the wide zone or the bounce plays? Like, Is there a relationship and a dialogue there with him?
Absolutely. I remember last year, I forget what part of the season it was, but I remember talking to AG before, like a walkthrough, and I would just say, hey man, like when I'm doing this block, run to help me stretch this guy, and I can set you up so you can cut behind it. And he was like, yeah, like just hearing it from, maybe a coach said it before, but hearing it from your teammates, hearing it from your peers, it helps a little bit more.
So one thing John Riggins and Joe Washington had on our crews, it worked in concert. And John actually said in the offensive line meeting, he did that every day.
Yeah.
And I think the more they know about what you're attempting to do, the better flow.
Absolutely.
Talk about coaching. Matt's Coast always gives you kind of a book to read.
Yeah.
You have to do a book report.
Yeah.
What is it this year?
This year is deliberate discomfort.
Oh.
It's about fear, and it's about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. It's so far I did yesterday's. It was about trust and about communication, and it had a story. It was a really good book from Jason B.A. Kemp, something like that. I forget his name, but he's a Army vet, Green Beret. It's really a good book. He doesn't pick bad books. So far, this is pretty good. I like the first chapter. Can't wait to see what's up next.
I would say if we've learned anything in life, if you want growth, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That is where true growth comes. Make sure all those young bucks on that line get that book report right.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Charles, thanks so much for joining by. It's great to see your family was out here as well, being able to share that with them here at training camp. Congratulations on the growth of your family as well.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to the season.
All right, appreciate it.
Big dog.
All right,
Appreciate you.
And here's a snapshot of Charles Leno Jr.'s career. The 7th round pick has appeared in 119 games over the course of his 8-year career. In 2018, the left tackle earned a Pro Bowl selection as a Chicago Bear. Now, in Leno's first season with Washington, he started all 17 games, recording a perfect snap count percentage for the 5th time in his career. Now we welcome back onto the show the gentlemen, Logan and London here. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive line and kind of what you're able to see down there. First off, London, 119 consecutive games for Charles Leno Jr. You blew way past that. I stood corrected. He's in the twos, 215 consecutive games.
No big deal.
Not a big deal. But you know
look, that's basically unheard of, though.
But with Charles, the 119 games, don't overlook that. I mean, that's impressive, the durability that he's been there, the consistency, and to play at a high level, which he did last year for Washington. I'm happy that he's on our football team because if you think about it, it was kind of a revolving door at the left tackle position, and he came in here last year and solidified that position. I thought, hey man, the Bears cut him. Their offensive line was terrible. And if they cut him, what are we really getting? But he came in here and he was a pleasant surprise. That's why they extended him last season, and I'm sure the team is happy to have him starting at the left tackle position for us.
Yeah, Brandon Sheriff goes. This offensive line has gone through a lot of different changes, and it seemed important, Logan, to head coach Ron Rivera, first off, to get players that he's familiar with as well, bringing in Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, and also to make sure that he has a certain veteran presence on that offensive line. While they like a lot of youth on the team, the line is where they do like a certain amount of that ability to kind of mentor some of the younger guys, bring the Sam Cosmes, the Sadiq Charleses along. How do you see in whole? Because the offense will go, as we know, the offensive line can hold up for them to go.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting group because I think Norwell and Turner, kind of both guys, I don't say near the end of their career, but older guys, kind of uncertain about what their performance is going to be like. But they've come out here and just been pros, man. They've executed at a very high level. Turner's athleticism, I think, shows up every single day. Norwell's size is something that has really been nice to see. 6'8", 330 pounds. And him and John Allen just have wars because, John's a power player, and it's hard to be a power player when someone's as big as Norwell. So I think that veteran leadership, and Leno mentioned yesterday in our interview how playing next to a veteran on the offensive line is so important because there's really not a drastic adjustment period for him. So it's really exciting to see those guys kind of playing well, understanding the scheme, and mentoring guys like Sadiq and Cosme.
And getting great coaching from John Masco. I know John Masco from back in with the Rams in 1999. He's one of the top offensive line coaches in the National Football League. These guys have had success playing under Masco. When you look at this offensive line, top to bottom, a lot of depth on this group. If they're not a top 7-8 offensive line this year, it would be a disappointment because they're that good. I really like the addition of Norwell. I like Trey Turner. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl player. That guy is still in there, and I know John Masco will bring him out. Chase Roulier, really underrated at the center position. And you look at what they can do as a group, and then you got, I like Schweitzer as a backup, Cornelius Lucas. Those guys, if somebody gets injured, they can step in and get the job done as well. Really love the offensive line, the depth, and also love John Masco as the coach.
You mentioned Masco's head coach Ron Rivera was trying to get him for quite a while. He was with the Ravens for a little bit, and they wouldn't let him go. But he's got a name for himself on really getting these guys set and ready and understanding that they have to at times play multiple positions. You have to plug them along as the season goes along because there is a lot of wear and tear for them. They're now protecting a different quarterback yet again. And you've got Carson Wentz out there. Look, Taylor Heineke, things break down. We see he got out there last year and he used his legs. What's going to be the challenge, and what is it that they need to really kind of have that protection down for the skill set that Carson has?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because, I think people see like those pressure statistics and they say, oh, that's the offensive line. But really, that's a quarterback-driven stat when you really break down the analytics. And Carson holds the ball longer than any quarterback in the NFL. So they're going to be really stressed out. And I think it falls on multiple parties to kind of make sure that he's insulated, right? Obviously, the offensive line needs to play well. Scott Turner needs to have a game plan that gets the ball out of his hands quickly. And I think Carson needs to kind of make an adjustment, right? Guys need to get open quickly for him on the outside so he doesn't have to hold that football. So I think it's going to be a kind of a symbiotic relationship between all parties to make sure Carson is insulated and well protected.
Yeah, you mentioned Scott Turner and you talk about the play calling. We have a lot of player makers at the skill position. Get the ball out of Carson's hands, the quick passing game. Also, the running game is going to be a great asset for him because when you can run the football, now you can set a play action pass and take shots down the field with Terry McLaurin, with De'Ami Brown, with Jahan Dotson. So the run game, the play calling, and then allowing the play action pass, that's going to allow Carson Wentz to perform at his best.
And they ran the ball outstanding yesterday. That's something with the pads come on. You're not really sure how that running game looks, and yesterday they did a great job creating huge holes for the running backs.
You mentioned the running game. We're going to talk a little bit about that later on the show. But for now, everything you need to know about the team and what is important going on here at camp, well, we have it for you on Command Center. You can catch every episode on our YouTube channel and on commanders.com. You can also check us out on NBC Sports Washington weekdays 5:30 and 10 p.m. Oh, look at that handsome fella.
Look at those guys.
Look at it. But for now, let's talk about players hitting themselves with tortillas.
Ready to go. Going clockwise.
I really don't know what to make of that.
We should do that. What are we doing? Julie's not buying that. She doesn't want to
really work the reflexes, head movement.
It could be a bonding experience for us.
Who do you think would win? Tana. I think Tana's got pretty quick hands.
Tana has very quick hands.
Yeah. All right.
I do have, my mom always teased me because I had these really chubby cheeks. So I might be able to hold that water in. But look, these guys are putting in a lot of work on the field. It's great to have a little bit of fun. I don't know who came up with that idea, but it's just taking off. Should we get back to the game of football when we come back here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jonathan Allen. He made his first Pro Bowl last season. He's been going up against Andrew Norwell in practice. And how would it look if he lined up against Daron Payne and rookie Fedarian Mathis. That's next. 1 minute break, but the field cam, it's up the entire time, so you don't have to take your eyes off practice.
This one's for every NFL fan whose fan cave is more like a fan corner of a guest room closet. You've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar.
You fired up the grill for one hot dog? Seriously?
Hot dogs, better with Pepsi.
Welcome back to Command Center Camp coverage presented by the inaugural Commanders Fan Cruise. Setting sail March 26, 2023. Reserve your spot at www.commandersfancruise.com. I hope we get an invite to that. That's just what I'm saying. All right, so fans have been active on social media. Here's a look at some of the posts with the hashtag HTTC. Coming up to camp, post yours and be on the show. Curtis Samuel, ready to roll. Of course, everybody's just waiting for him to be on the field, healthy and contributing. And training camp day with his nephew. We love bringing the fans, the family on out here. Thanks to everybody for tweeting and coming on out. Time to lace up your boots because we are going camping with team reporter Zach Selby.
Hello and welcome back to Camping Out with Zach Selby, where we're dropping all the bombs you would ever want about your Washington Commanders team as they go through training camp. We got the fans all out here for the first day of padded practices, and in today's rotating cast of characters on the beat, we have Mitch Tischler from NBC Sports Washington. We have Michael Phillips from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Let's go check out what they had to say. All right, with us we have Michael Phillips from the Richmond Times-Dispatch. So you mentioned John Allen. I mean, did you see the way he was just bull rushing Andrew Norwell? I mean, it seems like he's ready for the first day of pads, right?
Thoughts and prayers for Andrew Norwell, man. Ooh, you don't want to be that guy. You line up, you're excited, it's an NFL practice, and like, oh, there's an angry Jonathan Allen. Okay, well, it's a bad situation to be in.
He looks angry at us all the time, so we know a little bit of what that looks like.
I'm sure you can get more than like 3 words out of him about this later, you know?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And now with us we have the big man himself, Mitch Tischler from NBC Sports Washington. So, you mentioned the running backs, and you have AG, you have McKissick, you have Brian Robinson. How do you think that, that three-headed monster at the backfield is really going to work out?
It's going to be fun to watch. There's a lot of good running backs back there. I love what Brian Robinson can do between the tackles, but I've started to see a little more shiftiness, a little more speed around the outside from him. I mean, I think it's going to be a true three-headed monster. I think you're going to see, AG probably in the early downs. You're going to see McKissick in the clear passing downs, but they're going to mix in Brian Robinson in both situations. And I think he's going to be a little bit of an X factor back there for that running back group, because he's a guy who can kind of do it all between the tackles and around the outside.
I called Brian Robinson or Peyton Barber back when he was there in 2020, Mr. 3rd and 2. I feel like Brian Robinson could probably fill that role pretty well.
And that's the thing, is he's definitely Mr. 3rd and 2, but I think he can be more than that. And that's what I think is exciting about it, is that he's not just a guy who's going to stick his nose in there and fall forward for 2-3 yards. Washington fans remember Samaje Perine back in the day. There have been those guys who have been will fall forward for 2-3 yards, and that's their role on this team. And I think ultimately that's probably what Ron Rivera and this front office wanted when they picked Brian Robinson. But I think he's starting to show a little bit more, and I think he could be, like I said, a nice little X factor.
A little extra wiggle. Yeah.
He doesn't like a little wiggle, right?
And time for today's Fresh Takes presented by Safeway, the official supermarket of the Washington Commanders. You can listen to Zach's full interviews with the beat reporters on our podcast, Going Camping with Selby. Find it wherever you get your other Command Center podcasts. Logan, London, let's talk a little bit about what the reporters are talking about. I want to get your take on this. And first off, I want to start with Pro Bowler John Allen, just his first. We know he's going to have many more times making that trip there. Going up against offensive lineman Andrew Norwell, how much do guys really get from these one-on-one drills, especially in pads, London?
Oh, you get a lot. When you have ones versus ones, best against the best, it prepares you for the season of guys that you're going to go against. This is the only time really that you go against ones versus ones during training camp. And once the regular season starts, it's not a lot of that type of competitive action. John Allen is going to make Norwell better, and Norwell is going to make Jonathan Allen better. I'll tell you this, for Andy Norwell, it's only probably Aaron Donald that I feel is the best defensive tackle in the National Football League. So he's getting the second best interior defensive lineman in football. He's facing him every practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I had to talk to John Allen, and what he said to me was that Norwell has shown him some holes in his game, right? He's kind of pointed out some things that he needs to work on, areas that he needs to improve, and you never find that unless you're going against someone who's really good at football, right? Always the better players make you better because they force you to elevate. If you don't elevate, you die, and so that's what happened here.
How much do we get out of the competition? Like, are the guys keeping score? Is there like some friendly rivalry behind the scenes?
Absolutely, because what happens is after you have the practice, you'll go back and watch it later on, and in your meeting room, the guys are either applauding you or they're ribbing you. Hey, you got the best of you. So the next day, you're looking forward to having that competition again.
Let's talk about this team at times has used a 5-man front. What do you make of Fedarian Mathis, the rookie out of Alabama, lining up with the guys from Alabama, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen?
I mean, I think that's fantastic. I think one of the things about Fedarian that he does really well is he plays an excellent nose guard, and he's very unselfish when it comes to run stunts, picking for his guys, and being in the correct gap. And that's one of the things when you talk to coaches around the building that they weren't happy with Matt Ioannidis when they left, right? He didn't do exactly what he was supposed to do all the time in an 8-man front. That's critical, right? And so he's going to do that, and he's going to make this team better, and he's going to elevate those two guys as well.
Well, you mentioned, guys not doing what they're supposed to do on a given play. When you in the type of defense that we play, a 4-3 defense, everybody's responsible for that gap. And if somebody's not in their gap, that's how you get creases in the run game. You're like, man, how can they run against an 8-man front, or how were they able to run against a stacked box? They're able to run against a stacked box because somebody didn't do their job. He adds to the mix. They're rotational players, and then there'll be times where they'll have probably all three of those guys on the field together. Last year, they played a lot of five-man defensive line fronts, and what that allows you is a lot of one-on-one matchups across the board. Jonathan Allen, he's one-on-one. Daron Payne is one-on-one. Now for Fedarian Mathis, he's one-on-one. And the ends are now one-on-one. So it's hard for the offense to double team guys when you have 5 defensive linemen across the board.
Talking about the running game, let's go back there. You mentioned it earlier, kind of teased it earlier on what we were seeing. Look, you have Antonio Gibson going into his 3rd year as officially a running back. You have J.D. McKissick sticking around here with us, the opportunity you can do with him. And Brian Robertson Jr. out of Alabama coming in. Somebody posed having all 3 in the field at the same time.
All 3 on the field at the same time. I think it's entirely possible because of Gibson and McKissick's receiving skill set, right? I think Robinson to me is a pure runner. He's a very physical, he's a big man with excellent vision. Gibson, I think, is more of a pure runner than people think. He's kind of evolving in that running back position. I don't think he's got like this dynamic wide receiver skill set. But McKissick, man, he could play slot receiver in the NFL. So I think it's entirely possible. Maybe kind of a blocking back role for Brian Robinson, Gibson playing true tailback, and then McKissick in the slot, and that would be a crazy matchup nightmare for defenses. Yeah,
and Gibson, he's dealt with some injuries. Last season he was banged up, and when he got injured, they didn't feel like they really had a number 2 guy. This is a true 3-headed monster when you look at the running back position. Brian Robinson, 6'1", 228 pounds, a big guy, short yardage, goal line. I know Gibson lost some weight this year. That will help him with his explosiveness. And in competition, hey, you get a guy drafted in the 3rd round, he's gonna be competing for some of those carries. So it'll elevate the group. And J.D. McKissick, when you put him one-on-one with the linebacker or safety, he's going to win the majority of his matchups.
Running back coach Randy Jordan is so pumped and excited for this room and all the options of what they can do on offense. Of course, they have to put it to work. We're early in camp. Defense is ahead of the offense, but it's just the second day of pads, so we'll be seeing things pick up. That's going to do it for this show. We'll be back here again tomorrow. Every day throughout the week, we are bringing you new shows, new coverage of camp here in Ashburn. So great to have Al Fletch, the captain, the commander, London Fletcher. I can go on and on and on as we wrap this show. And, of course, Logan Paulson. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for joining us.